What is leadership for you, having said, those experiences?
Okay, well, first of all, I have to say, I think leadership is a hugely overused word. And I think many people aspire to be leaders, but many people fail to become leaders. And so for me, what leadership is, it's about building a team and working with a team and improving a team. It's about motivating the team. And it's not about acting, for me at least, it's not about working alone to make change. It's not about doing everything on your own in the hope that others will recognize what you do and emulate you. For me, it's about working very much with people. And yeah, so for me, I've always thought to be successful, I myself don't have to be successful. What I need to do to be successful is to build a really good team of really good people who are all really successful themselves. And if they're good, then that reflects well on me because I'm the one who created the team. I'm the one who leads the team. So I've always been very much about putting a lot of effort into the hiring process, finding the right people, focusing particularly on soft skills to build a team that fits together. And then once I have the right people, it's about giving them responsibility, giving them authority, because you have to have both. You can't have responsibility without authority. That just doesn't work. And my experience has been that people succeed. And part of the reason they succeed is if the team is cohesive, they want to succeed because it not only reflects well on them, it reflects well on the whole team, and then it reflects on me as the leader, and it reflects well on the organization as a whole. So leadership is about working with people and developing their skills.
What would you say would be the top 3 problems that they normally face?
Well, following on from what I just said, I think a real big problem is when people who want to be leaders or who think they're leaders don't actually give responsibility and authority to the people who report to them. And I think often this happens because perhaps they're not quite sure of the capabilities of the people under them, and they don't quite trust that the job will be as good as they want it to. And a lot of people think, if I want it done right, I better do it myself. But I think there's a more fundamental problem, which is that some people don't delegate because they're afraid of the person they're delegating to actually doing a better job than they will. And they will be made to look bad by a team member who's performing really well. And like I said earlier, I've always had the opposite thought. If my team member performs really well, if my team member is a star, that makes me a star.
True.
And so people who aren't willing to delegate and take the risk that their team member will actually outperform them, that says something interesting about them. Is it a lack of confidence? Is it not a fear of their own abilities? And I suppose if you are a boss and you've promoted someone below you who's showing an inability to delegate, then perhaps you've promoted the wrong person. And that's the theme I think I'll probably come back to. Another problem is promoting people for the wrong reason. And I guess what that means is the person who gets the promotion is often the best technical person, the best lawyer, the best accountant, the best engineer. But that doesn't mean they're the best manager. That doesn't mean they're the most empathetic person with the most emotional intelligence. That doesn't mean they're the ones who have the capability to actually lead a team. All it means is that they're a good lawyer or a good accountant or a good engineer. And so it's really important not to look at the technical skills of the person, but to think about their human qualities and whether they are the ones to motivate and whether they can actually become leaders in their own right at some point. And then the third problem I see is when, if you want to be a leader and not just a manager, then you need to step back occasionally and look at the big picture. And you have to always question the assumptions and make sure you're always heading in the right direction, because it's so easy to get set on a track and go a long way down that track and then realize when it's way too late that you've just been heading in the wrong direction. And so this is not a people point, which I've mostly been speaking about. This is the point of the leader being introspective, looking around, stepping back, taking the time to really think about the big picture. And I think that's crucial.
What do you believe, or what are the important leadership capabilities or skills leaders must have so that they are able to continue to lead effectively in this next normal?
Well, I think there are lots of skills needed to be a leader, but following on from what we've just been discussing, what I've just been saying, I think the important one is to be able to trust people. And that means
That's
you have
big.
to build trust, because trust doesn't come necessarily on the first day that someone starts a new job. You have to work with a person, you have to learn to understand each other's styles, and you have to come to trust the person on your team, in fact, everybody on your team, and they all have to come to trust you. And then you have to trust the people in your executive team as well. And without that trust, the company's always going to be dysfunctional. I guess there are some cultures where the way people work is not based on trust and the personal sort of relationships, which I've described coming from my Australian experience. In some places, it's all based on hierarchy and seniority and the position. And if someone is the boss, no matter how good or bad he is, then you do what he says without question. And I've worked a little bit in that sort of culture. I find that difficult because for me, the individual is so important. Another skill that I think you need is the ability to see that when somebody makes a mistake, that's not a failure. It might be a failure on the day, but in the long run, they've made a mistake and most people learn from it. And so therefore, learning from mistakes and not doing them again is a success, because it means that people are growing and developing. So yeah, you don't crush somebody because they've made a mistake. You work with them to make sure it doesn't happen again. You work with them to see what happened, why it happened, and you both learn from the mistake and you find a better way forward. It's not a failure. It's okay to make mistakes. When someone makes the same mistake twice, that's starting to look bad. When they make the same mistake 3 times, then that's actually really pretty bad. And that reflects upon the leader, because if a boss is letting a team member make the same mistake a number of times, that's a management failure. That's not a personnel failure.